So, the year was 2020. The month was March. I think we all know where this one's going. There's probably not much new that a person could say about this time, the lockdown. For months and months, I and many others were totally alone. In March, I was so afraid of the virus that I truly thought I could get it from just going outside. There was such little information. But I bought a new journal, a huge one, because it wouldn't have to be portable, and I created a Zoom account and settled in for a strange period of isolation. I've been really struggling. I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it is. It's the 23rd of March. It's the first sunny day of this year, of 2020. There was a lot about that time that was just plain hard, but also some things that began to interest me as the weeks passed. I'd like to make a quick caveat here and reference something that Lena said in a video about the need for us to impose meaning onto all of this, which I thought was very true.
I'm kind of really sick of the op-eds that are like, what we can learn from lockdown, because it implies that there is some kind of meaning to pain and how pain needs to happen for us to grow. And I don't always think that's possible. I think challenges are important, but it kind of implies that it's okay that the world is a bit shit, or that politicians didn't listen to all of the many warnings they had about this specific pandemic literally years ago, podcast that I made about that up here. It implies that all of that doesn't matter, and that it's okay because this 2020 has this really deep pivotal meaning, and I just don't think that's the case.
But with that being said, there's something I kept remarking on, and that was this. People were being honest about their loneliness, about their dissatisfaction, about their fear. In January and February, I had been very sick and spending most of my time alone, but I didn't ever really consider if I was lonely. It wasn't a word I ever thought about, partly because I naturally enjoy my solitude a lot, but also perhaps because it would have been unhelpful for my mind to go there. Apart from anything else, before the lockdown, loneliness was something to be ashamed of. And yet suddenly I was in a world where it was almost expected of you to say that you were lonely when asked. It was expected of you to be struggling. There was no reason to believe you would be handling it all well. There is a seminal Joan Didion essay called On Self-Respect. She talks about how the key to self-respect is taking responsibility for your life and for yourself. To be clear, I don't mean this in a gross Ayn Rand bullshit way. Of course, a lot is outside of our control, but there's also some very important power in self-care and self-discipline. In getting up in the morning and putting on clothes and trying and failing and trying again to feel like yourself in an impossibly strange world. The last few days I've been really making an effort to try to feel better. I've been getting up, I've been, eating regularly, I've been trying to be creative, and it's just like pulling teeth, but we'll see how this week goes. I don't want to seem like I'm using a horrible global tragedy as a background for my own 3-act story. Take this more as a few humble observations. A theme of a lot of my videos has been my slight disquiet, my struggles to get a handle on my body and my mind in the 5 or so months leading up to the virus's arrival into all of our lives. In my October memoir, I mentioned how I insisted to myself that things were good. But in March and in April of 2020, all alone in my apartment, grim as the world was, things started to really turn around. I got so much consistent rest, I fixed my sleep schedule, I started to recover after a 3-month crash. I started reading again like my 12-year-old self. I discovered old interests, I sat with my feelings, I gently demanded that I show up to life, even if life was a much stranger, smaller thing than it had used to be. I had to accept responsibility for my own survival, and for those first few months, that was about as much as I achieved, and that's okay. I learned to be gentle with myself. I learned not to expect too much of myself. I learned to accept that there are good and bad seasons, and to approach them with curiosity and openness and honesty.
Many people around me and online were in a similar place, and I think that was extremely relevant. You have to know that you're in trouble to start to fix it. That was the big lesson, I think. Because we were allowed to be sad, we were almost supposed to be sad. I could take time to address that. There was a new sincerity to my friendships, though they were far away. It was nice to let people know how much I missed them, to acknowledge the enormous role we play in one another's lives. I think that's why it felt so much more real than other periods of being housebound that I've experienced in my life, because this time I didn't lose myself in a television show, I wasn't in denial or revising the truth of the situation. I was saved by the immense bravery of those around me who decided to share their struggles and create a soft, gentle space for us all to work out how to best live through these times. When I remember this period, I hope I will remember the character the people displayed. That's what Joan Didion calls self-respect. She calls it character. Of course, the most was displayed by frontline workers, but I'm also inspired by everyone else. The humility that was shared and the warmth. A friend of mine said that it was a hard time, but it was full of heart. I wrote that in the first pages of that big journal, the journal that was comically big because it wouldn't have to be portable. Character in this crisis is accepting the real risks we face. Character is answering the calls of your friends when you can because you need them. It's eating 3 meals a day and getting up at 7 a.m. even if you're not sure what it is you're getting up for. It's almost like self-care, it's a close relative. It's more than saying, what will I do in this strange time? It's asking, who will I be? It's a staunch refusal to let it turn you into anything else.
The game is about to start. Bingo.ts wishes you good luck. Staying alive, 85.